Welcome to Free Your Mind podcast, everyone. We have a special guest on today. She is an artist, but above all, she's a very humble, down-to-earth person, one of the most humblest you'll ever meet. And, she's on here to just kind of talk about life and her inspirations and her art and what she's been dealing with in 2020, like the rest of us. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Miss Bianca Lago.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
So good. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's Saturday, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's unfortunate that we have to, especially me, I don't want to say we generalize that I have to live for just kind of the weekends, Monday to Friday is kind of like a blur. So we gotta work on that. Good. That's great. So tell me a little bit about yourself. However far back you want to go as far as your upbringing and kind of your background.
Yeah, man, it's like where to begin? I grew up right outside of Atlanta in a suburb that's like 20 minutes north of the city. My parents are from Brazil. So grew up with Brazilian parents. We spoke a lot of Portuguese in the house, which was cool. It's funny, I was thinking about how I didn't realize how lucky we were. I would go to Brazil almost every summer to visit my family, and I just thought it was such a normal thing. Everybody goes to another country to visit their family, right? Yeah, so I had a pretty cool upbringing, really good childhood.
That's important.
Yeah,
That's
solid
good.
childhood.
That's good. Now, what about location-wise? So where did you grow up?
Yeah, so that was an interesting place. I grew up in a place called Johns Creek, Georgia, and it's right next to Forsyth County, which I believe has the highest capital of Republicans in the country.
Okay.
Johns Creek was one year, maybe in like 2010, rated on Forbes like top 100 places to live. And I don't know why. I guess I don't know, cheap rent compared to San Francisco. But it was a thing, I grew up in the suburbs. It's very much country clubs and super conservative, not ever really feeling like I belonged there, So I think that's why I started getting so pulled to art, because it felt like a way of understanding myself and my surroundings and feeling some kind of belonging where I didn't feel that growing up.
That's amazing. What do you think was the cause of the lack of feeling like you didn't belong there, though? For the most part, like the one thing that sticks out to you.
Oh man, I don't know. It's like, I guess I just always felt like weird. And I like the thought of being a social chameleon comes to mind. Like I had a lot of friend groups that I would float around through, but never really a solid group of people that I felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And also just feeling like the black sheep in my family. So I think that was like, that was just the feel of always just being kind of that lone wolf.
When you say black sheep, is it safe to say then that the way you described the county, that's also was the family was conservative as well?
Yeah.
For the most part? Got it.
For sure. Yeah.
Got it. And then what else? So tell me about what happens after Georgia, though.
Yeah, after Georgia. So I moved out of Atlanta. Okay, so I grew up in the suburbs. 18, I moved into the city. So that was like 2009. And I lived all over Atlanta until about 2014, when I was just like, you know what, I'm really trying to make it work in the city and I'm just not vibing with it. And I did this cross-country road trip and ended up in Humboldt County at the tail end of it, and just really felt like this is what I need. I need to connect with nature. I need to sort of process everything that's happened in my life so far and figure out who I am without being around the things that I grew up with, without being around the people that I knew, and just limitations, it felt like. So moved out to Humboldt County, and that was the best decision I ever made.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you fall in love with the nature and everything?
Oh my God. Yeah. Seriously. The rivers, the mountains, just the trees. And it was the most healing thing that I knew it was a place to heal, but I didn't realize to what extent. And when I moved out there, it was like, I moved out with my ex. So that was the only real support that I had. So there's something about being in a completely different environment without anyone you really know or anything you know, and you're really left with yourself and your thoughts. I would just go into nature and bring my sketchbook and draw and paint and process and feel, and like, there's something about the nature there that is just wise and calm and healing, and it's just like a warm hug, you know? It sounds so cheesy, but
That's
it's
beautiful.
the truth.
No, that's beautiful. You know, you mentioned, and I gotta kind of ask about this real quick. What was it? So, you know, you said, you know, it was different, and you said it was like a big step, but you understood that you needed to kind of take yourself from the environment that you grew up in order to fully heal. But how did you overcome, like, you telling me the story right now, my anxiety just kind of lifted, because that's a big change to get away from something you're so used to, but know that where you're going is the only place that will allow you that healing. How did you get over that part of it?
I think that it was a long time coming. I think that I just got to a point where it was like, I recognized if I stay here in this current situation thing, I'm not ever going to grow or advance, and it just felt like that change and that anxiety and all of that was better than staying stuck. And I'm also a pretty impulsive person.
And the impulsivity worked out for one.
Yeah, and I'm a very intuitive person. I feel like when I have those moments that are something bigger is telling me to do something, I really just go for it. And I have this feel that this is the one life we have to live. And comfort, I think, is just this illusion that keeps us stuck and keeps us from growing. And for me, I think life is this one big grand adventure, and I want to experience as much as I can. And I want to honor myself and my feelings. And if something's telling me to do something, I trust myself. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, as they say, there's no comfortable roads when you're trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, so Humboldt County, and then that brings us currently. So where are we at currently right now? And why that move?
I'm in San Francisco now. I moved down here in December. It got to the point, you know, Humboldt was amazing. I went back, I finished college when I was there. And it just felt like I got a really solid foundation, but I outgrew it. And then it got to the point where it was like, I felt like I got as far as I could as an artist there. And I needed to be somewhere with more opportunity and more inspiration and more culture. Humboldt's great, but it's also a very small town. So there's only so much you can do, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely got those opportunities in the Bay Area or San Francisco for that part.
Yeah.
So I know you kind of touched on this. You said that kind of feeling like the black sheep of the family, and just having a different outlook and perspective to life kind of sparked your passion for art. But can you talk about that a little bit more, about childhood, upbringing? What other influences kind of put you towards the path to art?
Yeah. Man, like anyone, I think middle school was really difficult for me. And it was also a very difficult time in my family. So I kind of got hit with this double whammy of middle school and turmoil within my family happening at the same time. And it was really poetry that got me started. It was a release for me, a place where I could be creative. I didn't really feel like got, I, I had friends in school, you know, so I needed something to make me feel connected. So I would just listen to music or read and look at art. And that was, learning about other people that were sort of the outcast helped me. And that's where I found my comfort. And I think from there, it just kept going. Now, also around that time, my mom started painting murals around a lot of schools in the area that I grew up in, and she would take me with her to be her assistant. And I just remember loving it so much. There was something about just like painting in these huge, large surfaces that it just felt natural. It felt right. And she had all of these extra supplies at the house. I will say, when she was making her own art, aside from the murals, it wasn't really supported by my dad. So in a fit of rage, she like gave me all of her supplies. And so then that's when I started working on my own paintings. I think I was about 14 at the time. So then I just started exploring with that. We had a basement. I turned a little corner of the basement into my studio, and I was just exploring. And art classes were sort of the only classes in school and English, that made me feel like home.
Mm. Who were you gravitating? You know what? Who are you gravitating towards for poetry at that age? And who's your favorite poet?
Oh, these are such hard questions for me. Okay, I was like really into the beat poets. I started getting into Kerouac and Ginsberg, and just like, you know, anyone that was a rebel and not fitting into the status quo, and just like questioning things and living this more free life, because I think I felt really constrained and constricted. So I was inspired by people that didn't care what society thought, didn't want to fit into the mold, and were really true and honest with themselves. So that, and then I started like getting into the Sex Pistols and like, I was like 7th grade and like listening to all of this like punk and emo and whatever.
And feeling it.
Feeling it. And yeah, and that definitely inspired and sparked the rebel in me.
Okay. So far, what I see is we have a rebel with a cause. And we're going to get to that. So we're in San Francisco now. So I know we're going to get into COVID, but what you thought about San Francisco, let's think about it pre-COVID, before you moved, right? Because you moved before COVID hit, right?
Yeah.
Right. Has it met your expectations?
Yeah, it's a magical city. And it's crazy that I've had such a wonderful experience in the midst of COVID. I can only imagine. And in a way, I'm grateful that I was able to slow down enough to set the foundation I've set for myself, because I think when things begin to open back up, I'll be more solid and prepared for what's to come, you know?
Got it. No, absolutely. Just to go back to the, background that you talked about a little bit, 2 things I want to ask. Number one, something that just sparked was you talked about your mom and her art, right? So, I mean, it definitely sounds like there's an artistic gene in the family. Does it go further than that before your mom as well? Anyone in the family?
I feel like the women in my family would have been so successful if they didn't grow up in a generation and in a place that was so patriarchal and misogynistic, because they are all strong, intelligent, and creative, beautiful women that had to give up kind of any aspirations to raise a family and be the wife for the husband. So yeah, there's that. I do have a distant cousin in Brazil who is a successful artist, but that's a male, so I don't know. I guess there's the gene kind of passing through.
Absolutely. And with that said, can you talk a little bit more about your mom? I know, and you said in a very emotional moment, she kind of passed on her art pieces to you, and that's when you picked the things up. But did she continue her passion?
Yeah, she did. I think my mom, I'm so proud of her because I know she didn't get a lot of support, and she worked her ass off painting murals and doing all of this work. And she had a pretty great career as an industrial designer when she first moved to the States, and she put that to the side to raise us. And it recently, within the last 5 years, she really was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to do something for me. And who do I want to be and what do I want to do with my life? And she really resonates with dogs. She loves dogs. So she just one day was like, you know, I just want to paint dogs. I just want to paint dog portraits. That's what I want to do. I'm a great artist. I'm really talented. And she just decided to do that. And it's taken off. And over the last 3 years, she's developed this great business with her art, dog paintings. And it's really cool. And it's awesome to see that because she is really talented. And I know that she had to overcome a lot of obstacles to stay true to herself. And now that she has, and she kind of blocked all of the noise, people are starting to see and recognize. And I think that's awesome.
That's beautiful. And I have a feeling you as probably also inspire her as well. How does Bianca define art?
I feel like art is more of a feeling than anything. I think that art is the spirit, and I feel like you see it when you see it, you'll know it when you see it. That's how I feel about it. I think you can be really technically able to create something beautiful, but if you don't have that soul behind it, it falls flat. And on the other side, you can have a painting or a piece of art that's not very technically well done, but it has this spirit behind it, and it is more successful. And I think it's really hard to define.
Got it. Thank you. I mean, for me, as you know, I think, you know, I've told you this way in the past. I mean, I love art so much, but I've always kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of kept myself from progressing towards that because I'm like, I can't even draw stick figures. I really can't. I just don't have that capability. But like you said, art is, if it invokes your emotions and it puts that out there in any way, shape, or form, I think that's the beauty of it, at least for me, right?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite artist and why? Another hard question, probably.
Yes. Okay. So I thought a lot about this one.
Okay, tell me.
I have a few. Okay. When I first started getting into painting, I was like 15, 14, really inspired by Kandinsky and Rene Magritte. So they are staples for me. But it changes. And then like a few years ago, I was in New York and I was at the MoMA, and there's this one particular painting by Peter Klee that he does on burlap of this weird figure. And that just resonated with me so much. So there's that. Right now, I really love Natalia Fabia. She's this incredible figurative artist, and she takes the male gaze in a way that's just like, this is what women actually are, and this is what we actually do. And I appreciate that. And it's funny because I was thinking about how I was really inspired by the avant-garde, like Robert Rauschenberg and Jean Tinguely, and just the rebels, right?
Right.
But now I was looking back and it was like, wow, I was always inspired by male artists, and what's up with that, and what's up with art history making us so familiar with all of these male artists. And now just by happenstance, or maybe some kind of subconscious pull, all of my favorite artists are female. And yeah, like Hung Lu is an amazing portrait artist. She's fantastic. And the list goes on.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Okay, so now this is going to be fun. So what is your favorite piece of art?
Okay, so I recently was in Chicago before COVID in February, and I saw Edward Hopper's Nighthawk in person for the first time ever. I didn't even realize it was at the Art Institute in Chicago. I had just turned a corner and I started crying just out of nowhere. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
It's so much larger than life than I expected it to be. And I turned another corner and I saw all of these pieces by Georgia O'Keeffe, and I just had to kind of tuck away because I got emotional. And then one of the security guards was there and I was just like, does this happen a lot, or people just cry? And she was like, not really, but it's fine.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think, hey, that's I've always said is that's one of the best surprises in life you can get, you know? Something that motivates you and then it happens to fall on your lap. So
yeah.
Absolutely. Any piece of art that you have done personally, do you have a favorite of yourselves, of your own work?
Okay, so I want to talk about my first painting I ever did. I painted this interracial gay couple in front of a church, and their bodies morphed into the same color. And I was like 13 or 14 when I did that one. I loved that piece. It was so bad. The portraits were terrible. It was very cartoony, but it was really fun to explore that. And lately, the two favorite pieces I just finished was the last portrait I finished of somebody's grandmother. It was a commissioned piece done in a sepia tone, and it was just so smooth and delicate, and I think it came out great. And then I also just finished this very colorful rendition of the creation of Adam, done with a dog and the dog's owner. And it was like on a very trippy, psychedelic, colorful background. And that was a very fun piece to do.
I love it. Oh, we're gonna have, there's gonna be a picture that people will see what we're talking about. That's for sure. That's for sure. Going back to that first painting you did, right? Mm-hmm. What was your inspiration behind that at that age and at that time? Or what do you think was your inspiration?
I think that I was coming to terms with my own bisexuality and living in a very conservative place. Also with parents that really, you know, they're great people, but they've come a long way. But really unaccepting of it at that time. Like understanding of other people, but maybe just not wanting it for their kids. So I think it was my way of just saying that this is okay, and kind of like fuck the church and all of the things that are keeping us from living our most true and authentic selves, and for like shame on anyone that's gonna make you feel like your love is something dirty and wrong. And I just thought, I knew from a young age that was wrong. Beautiful. That love is beautiful, you know? So absolutely. I wanted to explore that.
Absolutely. I love that. What was the reaction of the family to that painting?
I showed my mom and she started laughing, but not in a good way, like okay. A very like, and looking back at it, like that hurt I was so proud of this piece and I was really excited to show her. And then after that moment, I realized that I had to keep this to myself. I had to keep my art to myself. It was something that I would be doing for me. So I never showed people my paintings for a long time. I was in art classes and I was developing my style and my understanding of art, but I had a whole series of paintings I would do in the basement outside of school that I would never show anybody. Mm-hmm.
You still got that painting?
You know, it's funny. No, I painted over it. But the piece that I painted on top of it, I sold. I sold almost all of those paintings at one of my first art shows.
That's a beautiful story. Wait a minute. No, hold on now. So how did that make you feel though? Was that some sort of liberation right there?
Yeah, it was. And it's interesting because it happened. I was like going to art school. I was at Georgia State for a little while. I was studying art, but I just didn't work with that kind of structure. And it took me like 8.5 years to finish college. I switched majors. I switched like 4 different schools. And I remember before I re-enrolled to finish my bachelor's degree, I sold all these paintings. I was showing in cafes, and I was like, why do I need art school? I'm already doing the damn thing. But there was something that felt like I had to do it. I needed to check this box off my list. And I'm glad that I did. But I feel like I've learned more from just doing than I ever did from art school.
Wow. Life experience, huh?
Yeah, but we all learn differently, you know? That's just, yeah.
Absolutely. I know you said that you're glad you did the schooling thing. If you had to go over, I'm assuming that also means you would do it again. Would you do it any differently as far as the schooling art piece?
No way. I would do everything the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but I'll tell you in a minute. Is there any pieces of art that you have completed that you regret afterwards in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
Tell me.
There's one that I think about that I really, I don't even know if I can talk about this one. Okay, I'll just say this. I got a commission, and someone had a really shitty tattoo about an affiliation they have with a group that I really don't agree with. I didn't know what this group was, but I had like some weird feeling about it. And then when I looked it up, I realized what it was. So I painted over the tattoo and I didn't include it in the piece, and then finished the commission and sent it off.
Can I ask what the reaction was when you sent that off without that part?
I don't know if it was even noticed.
Wow, love it. Well played, well played. Okay. So you may have answered this, but I'll ask this. What was the hardest piece you did from an emotional perspective?
Oh God, okay. I started this nonprofit the last 2 years I was in Humboldt called Conversations About Power, where we talked about sexual abuse, consent, boundaries, healing, all of that. And I painted 9 famous sexual predators and I turned them into clowns. And I did it all while it was like the tail end of my healing process from all of that. And because I went through a lot of shit. And I thought that it's like with healing, you always think that you're done and then you get to a whole other layer, you know? And while I was painting those, I would listen to podcasts on how trauma affects your body, what it does to your brain, how you can work with neuroplasticity to try and change your thought patterns. And I'm becoming more and more aware of the negative mindset that I was in, and then understanding why I was in that mindset, forgiving myself for being in it, forgiving others for kind of creating that mindset in a way. It was really hard to paint those. It was really hard. I was spending almost 30 hours per portrait, and it was just like sitting there with these disgusting people and then trying to make a beautiful painting of these terrible people. It was like the cognitive dissonance while I was making it. All I gotta say is I smoked so many spliffs to get me through that. Like it was really intense.
I could only imagine. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did it give you that healing though?
Yeah.
It did?
I think more than the paintings, though, it was something cathartic about getting it out of me, but the nonprofit aspect of it and connecting with so many people, women specifically, that have gone through similar situations, going out in the communities, talking about healing, talking about consent. The most powerful workshop I did was with a group of high schoolers where we constructed what consent and boundaries look like for us. There's something about working with adolescents at that age where you're starting to become sexually active and lines might be blurry, and really setting that tone of like, look, this is how you say no. This is how you don't feel guilt for it. This is how you protect yourself. That was the most healing aspect of those paintings for me.
When did you realize that trauma was holding you back?
Man, I think that there were many instances like that decision to move to California from Atlanta. I was just like, I can't heal here in a place where there's so many triggers everywhere I go. And I was recognizing that I didn't have good habits. I wasn't living to my potential. And I was just in this very depressed state. So that's one moment. And then there was another really specific moment in 2015 where I was realizing that I had done a lot of healing and grown a lot, but it was like I reached one mountaintop and then I saw that there was another peak. And so I think and I feel like I'm at another moment like that right now. Like every time you've gotten to one level of healing, it's like you peel back another layer of the onion and you just are constantly becoming more and more of who you were before everything happened. I don't know if that makes sense. Because I think on the outside, it looks like I'm a very functional, like person with all of these accomplishments, and all of that is true. But I know that there's so much more that I could be. And there are still lingering remnants of trauma, you know? And I think I've had to come to peace with the fact that that might be the case forever. And it might just be like, it might lessen over time. But once I've made peace with the fact that that is just a part of me, I've been able to sit with the darkness and welcome it. And when you can do that, it's easier to be with yourself because you're not running away from this thing. You're just sitting there with it and accepting it and becoming aware of it. And only then are you really able to kind of transcend that, at least for me.
Wow, it totally does make sense. I mean, you know, that's one thing that, believe it or not, I know it sounds for some, I mean, it did for me at one point, very daunting, that whole trauma and abuse and going through that. You get to a point where you're like, okay, like you said, you peel off one layer or you knock off, you know, one accomplishment or one roadblock. And then you realize, my goodness, there's another part to that. And then there's another piece. And that also in a way gives me comfort because like I'm at a stage in my life where I feel like I have found a pattern where I can overcome these obstacles. I'll never fucking forget them. And there'll always be a part of me. But as you have done, I think you have taken that horrific experience and turned it into something that you will never, first of all, repeat. You broke many cycles, first of all, by moving away, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you also set yourself up to succeed and get to that potential you're talking about.
For sure. Yeah, I remember this 2015 moment. I had this epiphany where I was just like, I am hurting myself in these ways because other people hurt me. And I was just like, well, that's stupid. And then that's when the rebel in me kind of kicked back in, and it's just like, well, the best way that I can kind of like stick it to them is by living a really happy, healthy, and full life, not by continuing this cycle of abuse and hurting yourself. And I think that that's really common. Like I think about parrots or animals that are outside of, that are in captivity, and they're not in a really healthy environment, and they start like picking at their feathers. We do that as humans. And so it's like, all right. And it's like, that's the thing with healing too, is recognizing your accountability. It's like the things that happen to you might not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to take action and to not linger in that place, that negative headspace, you know? And yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling at this point.
You're not rambling. Absolutely makes sense. I know that one of the healing processes that you talked about was, you know, the change, the move to Humboldt County, and that kind of sparked everything. But have you sought any sort of professional therapy? And what are your thoughts on therapy?
I think therapy is amazing. I've had many therapists and they were so helpful. I don't have one right now, but I would like one. I think that it's like going to get your teeth cleaned. I think it's really important to check in with a professional. I think it's also important to find a therapist that works well with you. I've had bad therapists and I've had good ones, you know. And I think that along with therapy, you need to be doing things in your own personal life as well that complement the therapy. But I feel that these are the things that make life rich and interesting, you know, like we all have these really textured, complex stories, and it's all what you do with it. So I feel like I really love the person that I am and who I've become. And I think, so you can't hate the situations that brought you here, right? And all of those experiences. It's just a matter of what you do with everything. I think therapy is really good. I think it's important to be self-aware, and yeah, everyone should go to a therapist.
I love
We're
it.
all broken to a point, you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry. And, you know, and my philosophy has always been, it's such a red flag for me when somebody, for me personally, again, I don't want to generalize, but when somebody says, I don't need therapy.
They need it the most.
Yeah. And I say that because I was one of those people.
Yeah.
So I know that I fucking needed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. What has 2020 been like for you, and how are you managing with everything? And I just want to remind people that you also reside in California, in the Bay Area, which also has been affected not only by COVID, but the fires. So how has things been for you?
Man, well, it's like I moved here and I knew 2 people in the city, and then everything shut down. So it was really hard because I didn't have a support system. I just left the support system that took me like 5.5 years to create up in Humboldt. And then my family's in Atlanta, and I moved here, and it was very isolating. And I was so, so grateful again to have art in my studio, because I would just lock myself in there and make art. And in a way, I'm really grateful that I had all of the time to do that and to develop my business in the way that I have. I don't know if I would have been able to do so if things didn't just shut down, and that was really all I had, you know, going for me. But I don't know. So I had to get creative with what to do with my time. I like started bicycling around and looking at murals and finding inspiration just from the city and from street art. And that's really influenced my art in a beautiful way. I had to go inward again in a way that I hadn't since I first moved to Humboldt. So it's like, talk about peeling another layer. Like, I thought that I had done all of this beautiful work, and I did. And then it was just like, boom, here you go. instant isolation in a city where you don't really know anyone or anything. And it was like, cool.
Yeah. I think, you know, what sticks out to me, what you said there was like, you did a lot of beautiful work, right? But I think from a positive aspect of, like you said, peeling that other layer is that, oh shit, there's some more beautiful shit to see and work on, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, how has it been? How have you been managing as far as, I know you said knew a couple of people. How have you been managing and keeping that social interaction going with people and having that human connection?
Yeah, well, I've just been engaging with other artists that work at the studio complex I'm at. So, like, slowly building connections with people there has been wonderful. I made some new friends when I first moved to the city and have been kind of keeping them as a pod, my little social bubble, and just really connecting with my roommate and like now best friend, and just like reaching out to people from back home and from Humboldt and nourishing those connections that I created that were really meaningful to me and not abandoning them just because I don't live there anymore. I've been able to revisit some old friendships and that's been really great. So that's how I've been managing and taking a lot of time to take care of myself, which has been really great.
And how are you doing that, Bianca? How are you taking care of yourself?
Oh, by like really focusing on my nutrition and trying to take time to relax. I used to be so rigid about what I ate, and I'm being a little more just open and chill and relaxed, which is a huge deal for me because I used to be very anxious. And yeah, like taking the time to go relax. I keep saying that word.
No, because it's so fucking important in 2020.
I know. Just to go, like, I do like exercise. I've been going on like biking adventures around the city and trying to find ways to stay active. And like my sleeping schedule has been really good. Just all of these little basic things that I wasn't doing because I was working so hard all of the time. And I still do work my ass off, but I don't have a night job anymore. So I'm able to have a like more consistent sleeping schedule, which is the best thing ever.
Yeah. That's one of the first things that hit me, Bianca, was like, oh shit, I have a horrendous sleep schedule. And then I remember when I just started sleeping, I was like, wow, it really does affect my day when I wake up.
Seriously? Oh my God. Going to bed
Shit.
at 11 instead of going to bed at 3 a.m. or
That's right,
4?
3 a.m. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. Let's talk about your art, because I know we touched on, you know, what inspires you and what motivates you. Do you feel compelled as an artist? Because I already know, because I know you, you know, I know your art and we've talked, so I know what, you know, what you put out there. But do you feel compelled as an artist to make sure that you're addressing social issues in your art?
Okay, here's what I'll say about that. I did that series Conversations About Power. I was very much into like talking about these really difficult issues and using art as a vehicle for social change because I think it's a really powerful tool in that aspect. I will also say that when I finished that project and left Humboldt, I was so emotionally drained from it that I decided to get less political and more fun with my art in this last year. So I've been working a lot on commission pieces, not really so many of my original works, but when I am working on my original stuff, I have this series I've been developing of portraits and sort of some surreal art that I haven't debuted yet. I kind of want to take this turn. I think that I used to think that art was supposed to be used for activism, and that's it. And that's the only thing that makes art valid. I sort of have shifted my perspective on that, because I think it can also be used to think about ourselves, to introspect, and maybe to just be a source of relief from the world. And I think that that's valid too. I think if you asked me this 3 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that, but that's where I'm at right now. And I think it just changes depending on where you're at in life.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that really just stuck out of what you said is that kind of just being labeled, for example, as an activist artist, right? You also, I think you've painted such a beautiful picture throughout this conversation about that rebel mentality, but also being constrained to be yourself. If you're going to be labeled one thing, then you notice that fucked up expectations, right? Then you feel like you're expected to follow that. And
yeah.
And like you said, if you're not having your own genuine stuff come out, you know, that makes it, you're constraining yourself. And I think the last thing you want to do is be rigid in a box, right?
Totally. That's such a good point. I was feeling that way. And I think that activism work is important. I think that we need to be aware of the world around us and our role in it. And I think that it's all interconnected. The more that we become aware of ourselves, the more we become aware of the world that we live in and how we participate in it, and then you start thinking about, who do you want to be? How do you want to see the world? And right now, I want to see the world as a place that is vulnerable, encourages people to be themselves, is understanding, and is accountable for your own actions. And how I want to do that is by just having a little bit of fun. I think that 2020 has been so intense for everybody. And as I'm at this stage of my healing, it's just all been such a struggle for so long. And I'm just at a place where I just want to have fun and play. And I think that that's a really important part of life, is play. And I feel like I missed that aspect for a really long time. And I'm wanting to explore that in my artwork right now.
I love it. You know, I've always said that something happened, Bianca, in that stage of us going through adolescence and in early adulthood. Something, and I don't know, I mean, the conversation can lead us to many things, from capitalism to the society we live in. Something just takes away that childhood and fun. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a war against that. And then for most of us, we also grow up in an environment where we didn't even have a healthy childhood, for example, right? In many ways, from an emotional perspective, at least, right?
Yeah.
And then we're forever battling, trying to make up for that childhood in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on. Yeah. And I think something just happens, Bianca, in our society that really discourages, and I don't know what it is, the 9 to 5, the rat race, you got to grow up and do this and have a couple of kids by then, be married, you know, all these fucking societal norms and expectations. I think it's the death of creativity, individuality, and who we fucking are supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Totally.
You touched on surrealism just now, and that leads me to the next question. How has your perspective to the way you do your art, how has COVID changed that perspective? And is surrealism something you always wanted to explore, or has COVID played a role in that?
It's definitely something I've always wanted to explore. And I think it's something that, I'll tell you what, I felt so obsessed with wanting to be able to create realistic art, because I was like you, I had a hard time even drawing a stick figure, you know. I was really into photography and I painted abstract, and I just felt, to be considered valid as an artist, I wanted to know how to paint realistically. So I spent a very long time understanding the technical side of art. And now I think that I've reached a point where I have that down, and I can combine it with my creativity to create these surrealistic pictures. So I've always seen it as the steps that I need to take to get to where I want to be. And I always felt like surrealism was the end goal. And I just thought that I wasn't quite there yet. And I knew that I was working towards there. I don't know if, I think that COVID and the amount of time I've spent just in my studio and working and developing and getting confident in my product and what I have to offer the world has given me the, I feel like I can allow myself to indulge in that now. And I don't know what it was about that blockage up until this point, but this is where I'm at now. And I don't know if it's COVID or a little bit of everything combined, you know?
How much have you already, I know you said you have a couple of pieces you're working on, but how much mentally have you adapted that perhaps the majority of Bianca's art devotion will be towards surrealism? Have we taken that step, or that's something that's still kind of in the process?
I think it's sort of in the process. I've been working on some sketches, and it's tough because like I'm so grateful that I have the ability to be a full-time artist, but most of my work is commission based. And it's fantastic, you know, I love being able to be my own boss and spend my day creating and making work. And commissions are great because it allows you a chance to be creative in a way that maybe you wouldn't if you were making your own things. And I like working with other people and hearing their ideas and connecting with them. And, you know, I love all of that. I just don't have that much time to develop my own work because I work so much on other people's art. And like, I'm recognizing that this is just another step. This is just the part where I'm at in my career, where I'm in the city and I'm creating a name for myself and I'm letting people get to know that I exist, you know. And I just know that soon I will be in a position where I can spend most of my time developing my original work. So in the meantime, I'm looking at all these commissions as another opportunity to build my skill level so that when I do go back to all of my original work, it'll just be that much better and more successful.
I can't wait. Because you know, I'll be sending you some crazy surreal shit.
Yeah.
So you know, I can't wait to see yours. So this is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, you inspire me to explore that side.
I like that shit. Bring it. All right. What are your thoughts? Let's stick to just, you know, the country we live in United States. What are your thoughts on COVID and how our society has been handling it?
Man, I just think that we're such an individualistic society and we're so like dog eat dog and selfish. And I think that when you look at other countries that have more of a collective mentality, they're so much better situated now than we are because of that. I think that I have so many feelings about COVID. And it's hard. I think that it's showing how we interact with one another, how much we really care. I don't know what the right answer is right now. I don't know if it's just been so long. It's been 7 months now. Yeah. Are we going to stay locked down forever at this point? I'm not sure. I think that if we had handled things differently from the get-go, we would be in a much better position right now. I know that we're about to see the second wave, and it'll be interesting to see how we handle that.
Yeah.
I wish everybody wellness. And I think that we can spend a lot more time focusing on preventative measures and strengthening our immune systems. I think that we need to listen to scientists, and I think that we should wear masks. And I think that we should just, you know, be mindful. And yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Bianca. And I think one thing that really sticks out to me, two things you just said, and I think that's the root complaint, or when I'm sitting in a nursing home 30, 40 years down the road, and I'm babbling on, telling stories, okay? One of them is gonna be, I'm gonna be talking about COVID. And the thing that sticks out to me is, like you said, how we really come across as selfish assholes as a collective society, just for a simple fact that this shit hit, and again, in the middle of all this, people are still worried about me. Yeah. And I think that really sticks out. Number two, how useless the fucking government is.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared for shit.
No.
They still aren't.
No.
And it's sad because lives are lost. And you mentioned the collectivist societies, like you look at Japan and those societies. First of all, they fucking wear masks daily because it's the right thing to do because we've already fucked up and polluted the environment. Okay? Yeah. So they're used to it. And number two, like you said, they listen and you do it not for yourself, you do it for the other person. I mean, that's the whole part of having a society with humanity, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of lost that. Politics. What's going on, Bianca? What's happening, right? I'm scared shitless of November 4th.
I know, it's insane. So like what you just said, it's like, okay, so here's what I think about politics. I think that politics are a reflection of the society. And then I think it's, I feel like where we're at with the individualism and the selfish is just like where capitalism has taken us. I feel like, but we're experiencing, socialism for the rich. And then I worry about socialism and communism because I don't trust the government and I don't want to give the government more power and I don't want to give the government more money and ability, so then it's daunting and it's scary because I'm not sure where things are going. This election is really intense. I don't like either of the candidates. I don't like that we have a bipartisan system. But when I start to feel overwhelmed and like there's nothing I can do, and I recognize the importance of self-governance and how I live my life. So and as a creator, of a creator, it's like I have control over this microcosm, and hopefully that will reflect into the macro at some point. And I really feel like it's the younger generations that are recognizing the value of community. And when we start acting like politicians are going to say and do the things that they're seeing that the people want. And change doesn't happen when people in power just decide that they want to give up their power. So I think it's really important to stay aware and active. I think that since 45 has been elected into office, people have become more politically engaged, which I think is like a silver lining in everything. Because you can't just keep going on with your day at this point, not involved in politics. We're all so intermeshed with it. I don't know where things are gonna go, but I know that me and the people that I surround myself with are all really great, amazing people. And I think that there's this narrative going on right now that there's this division amongst people, and that's not the case. I think that people are a lot more united than we're being made to believe. And I feel like there's this idea of dividing and conquering, and the bipartisan system is really good for that. So this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. This is like, we need to really like burn everything down so we can rebuild. And it's like, maybe we're going to see the collapse of America, and that might be a good thing.
Correct. I mean, and of course, history tells us that that's what's probably going to happen. that everybody that got to the top because they raped, pillaged, and destroyed others.
Yeah.
And everybody has their day coming.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's amazing what you said regarding the divisiveness, though. And, I've always said at the end of the day, man, we have so much more in common, even with people that are quote unquote this bullshit left versus right. Those are human beings. We're all suffering in our own fucking way. We all feel the pain, the emotions and stuff. But like you said, we have these fuckers that are empowered that get off on us being divided. If we were all together, we would realize, oh shit, we don't need these fools.
Right.
They playing us. They've been playing us.
Playing us hard. And it's just like, what does fear do for consumerism? You know, because I think that that's what American culture really is. It's just this big consumption, you know, machine. And what happens when you're exhausted, lost, and afraid? And without community, without, like, I think there's just this void that people try to fill. And I just feel like this is all like a very successfully well-tuned machine. Successful for them, like they're getting what they want. And I think it's like a matter of us to be awake enough and to recognize how much power we really have as a collective. And this is one of the things that I'm from Georgia. Right. I have friends that are conservative. I try to be really sure that the way I live my life isn't like, oh, you don't believe the things that I believe in? Well, then I'm not going to engage with you. If I'm trying to be the change I want to see in the world, that means I need to recognize our shared humanity, acknowledge that we're not going to agree on everything, but if I can see the good in somebody, then I'm going to still try to connect.
Right.
I don't like the thought of, I think that I don't like this idea right now that if we're not on the same page, then I just don't want anything to do with you. I think that censors people and it makes people afraid to share their thoughts. And then you're stopping the exchange of free thinking. And that's very dangerous.
It is. And I think that's what the powers that be want. For us to have that mentality that, oh shit, because this person wants to vote this way, oh fuck them, I got nothing to say to them, I got nothing to learn from them, which is we all got some shit to learn from everybody. But I'm gonna tell you something, I am in the same mind frame you're at right now. I would never cut ties with someone for the sake of that they're different or this and that, but let me tell you something, Bianca. 3-4 years ago, that wasn't the case. And a lot of this came from like my healing and understanding. 3-4 years ago, I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I would engage, fight with people and shit like that. And then I realized I'm only hurting myself. There's anger coming out with that.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had to step back and be like, wait a minute, man. Now you are being a walking hypocrite, right? Mm-hmm. You're not, like you said, I'm not living the life, quote unquote, I preach about.
Right.
That was a hard lesson for me.
That is a hard lesson, but it's like, I think that's what anger does, I spent so much time being angry at everybody. And then it's like, once you start recognizing that, like, we really do have so much to learn from other people. And when we can kind of humble ourselves a little bit to see that, I think it's like, you invite more love into your life. It's a really good place to be. It's a lot more peaceful.
Fuck yeah, you could say that again.
Yeah.
You touched on this earlier about following science and wearing masks and all that. So, every time some shit, I mean, we never had some shit like COVID, but, anything that happens, disaster, terrorism, whatever, there's always some conspiracy, some shit attached to it, right? I don't think in my life, and I'm 38, Bianca, I've seen a lot of shit, okay? Excuse me, but I don't think I've ever seen so much peddling of conspiracies. Why is it easy for us as humans to believe in conspiracies rather than something that's evidence-based?
Well, first of all, I think that we have social media right now that's spreading conspiracy theories in a way that we've never seen. So it's easier to access. I think that people have also reached a point where they don't trust the media because they realize that they're being, any media outlet is biased one way or the other. I think that people are looking for answers and they're looking for somebody to blame. And I think conspiracy theories give a finger to point that's not at ourselves. And I think it offers some kind of hope as well. So I feel like, you know, like the QAnon and people that are really into that. Yeah, it would be awesome if Trump was this sort of Lord and Savior that's doing all of this like crazy stuff behind closed doors and is like don't worry about it. Just relax because Trump's got it figured out. Yeah, that's very comforting. I think that people are looking for something like that. And it is dangerous, but I will tell you this. I think it's I think it's also dangerous when Twitter bans people from saying things. I get that you want to prevent misinformation, but free speech is very important, and I respect, like, I would rather somebody spread information that I don't agree with than for them to be silenced.
Ooh,
So
you're taking us right to the next one. Talk to me about censorship. You know, we're living in a society right now, like you said, you know, people are saying shit, and no matter how much of bullshit out of this world it is, they have the fucking right to say it, right?
yes.
Yeah, we have that. And we live in a culture right now that it is, I feel like we've become so fucking sensitive to everything. And to the point where people's voices are being taken away. For example, the cancel culture, as they call it, or the media calls it. What is your point of view towards that, first of all? And then as an artist, how do you view that?
I think it's really dangerous. I think that people should have a space where they're allowed to explore ideas and be wrong without being canceled or judged. You know, I think that the only way that we can grow as a society is if we have a platform where people can talk about things and be wrong and be educated and have that exchange without so much emotion involved. And it's like, oh, you feel this way? Well, why do you feel this way? What experiences have you gone through that have led you to this conclusion? Okay. And then this is my point of view. And this is why I've come to this place. And then hopefully we can find a shared humility to where we both can, you know, all of us can express ourselves and understand and remove anger, emotion, all of that, and just get to the bottom line ideas. And that's how we can grow together, I feel, you know. I think it's really dangerous for someone to say something and maybe they're just processing, you know, or coming to a conclusion or getting to that place where they're going to be enlightened. And as you know, like, there's so many mistakes we make along the way.
Fuck yeah.
If I'm going to get canceled for all of the shitty things I've said as
I'll be
I was
gone. Long time
know,
ago.
I'd be gone a long time ago, but you got to know when someone's a good person and they're just trying to figure it out. Not everybody is like woke or has been in a position to where they can be awakened. So like we need to give that room to do so. And it, like, people are going to make mistakes. And I just think that we need to be a little bit more understanding and compassionate. I feel like cancel culture is really dangerous.
I couldn't agree, Bianca. And I love that you put the quotes around woke. Talk about a word that's been just completely fucked up in what it means. Being woke does not mean you think you have a piece of knowledge, so then you can, with that, put down someone else and shit on them because they don't quote unquote know about that.
Yeah.
If that's being woke, then what's the difference between being woke and a narcissist?
Right. Or an asshole.
Even better.
You know?
Even better. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, that it's like everybody has something we can learn from. You know, everyone has a piece of knowledge. So once we accept that and recognize that, like, everyone you're going to interact with is a teacher in one way or another, and to maybe not be so judgmental because we've all had different life experiences that have shaped us. Like, I mean, really, unless you're just a really sick and twisted human being and there's no hope for you, you gotta just let more compassion into your heart, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm gonna take you back again though. What is your favorite childhood memory and why?
I think for me, there's two that stick out. When I was growing up, up until about 7, we had the best Christmases. I remember we
Gosh.
didn't have a lot growing up, like, and that time in my life, but my parents would go, like, I remember they put like footprints coming out of the fireplace and just really playing with our imagination, and that was, it was like the simplest time when we didn't have very much, but we really connected with each other. And then summers there, we had a boat at Lake Lanier. It's this lake up in Georgia, and I had a lot of really good memories, just like tubing and spending the day with my brothers playing in the lake and swimming and just being in the sun all day. And, you know, I love nature. So just being in the water and with the trees, and just those are my favorite memories.
I love it. I know you, Matt. I don't think we got to it in the beginning, but how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 brothers.
We
I have
in
an
touch?
older, huh?
In touch, and we good? Everything good?
Yeah. I have an older brother and a younger brother. And there was a time where we kind of all sort of like went our separate ways and we're trying to figure things out, you know?
Right.
And lately we have reconnected in this super beautiful way. My older brother and I are 14 months apart.
Wow.
That's a bond, you
Fuck
know,
yeah.
like I love him so much. We've definitely gone different ways, different routes in life,
Right.
but there's so much of us that's so similar too. I love that guy.
I love it. Tell me a little bit about Humboldt County. Okay. And so I say that because I'm gonna just give you. I've never been to. I may have driven through it on my way to Eureka. Wait, is Eureka in Humboldt County?
Yeah, it is.
Oh shit! So I've been to Humboldt County. Pardon me.
Okay, yeah.
Pardon me. So, you know, I'm basing my shit and perception off of the media, for example, right? Right. When you think of Humboldt County, for people that don't know, I mean, you think of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's what I think of.
Yeah.
So how was life growing up there? And I mean, because when I also think of Humboldt County, to me, it sounds very similar, perhaps in a way, to the county you were talking about. The place in Georgia is kind of conservative in a way, but of course not affluent. Like, you know, you have the country clubs and all that. But perhaps the political mentality, is that correct for me to assume?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's an active Klan chapter in Humboldt.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's very conservative. It's very Caucasian. That's another reason why I really wanted to move, because I was like, I miss hearing other languages when I walk down the street. I miss being able to eat different food from different cultures. Like, so as amazing as it is and how wonderful it is, it's weird because there is this really conservative side, but there's also this very liberal bubble as well. And it is a bubble. It is definitely a bubble. So it's a tricky place. You can get stuck there. Cannabis is definitely huge. It's the main driving force of the economy there, but there's also extreme poverty and a lot of drug abuse. So there's like a really high homeless number. There's like lots of drug use, really hard drugs. You know, you see like syringes and needles all over the place. It's like part of the nomenclature up there to just talk about tweakers. Oh, as if it's like it's very normal to see like people just tweaked out, because I think that kind of comes with the side of the cannabis culture that I really don't like. You know, like I love weed, don't get me wrong, I smoke a lot, not a lot, I just like, you know, I like to smoke at the end of the day, you know,
right.
But there's this other side of it that's just sort of very unmotivated and kind of, yeah, you know how it is. And I think that shows, especially within the community of people that are working in the weed industry. I think people, yeah, it's a whole thing. It's really hard to describe unless you've experienced it, because you get a lot of people that are looking for like quick ways to make money, and then it's easy to get caught up in, but then there's also the people that use it medicinally and realize its healing powers and like are really into the medicine behind it and are very into nature and taking care of their bodies. Like that's the side I gravitate towards.
Absolutely. Same
It's a
here.
trip up in Humboldt.
Yo, what you're saying, absolutely. That's what it sounds like. I mean, in between, you know, the nature and the beauty, and then you have, you know, people from all walks of life struggling to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to make it up there because there's not a lot of opportunity. And then it's like a very slow pace. So I just remember trying to make things happen and trying to like start this nonprofit and do all this stuff. And there were maybe like 2 or 3 people that were on that same wavelength as me, where everyone else is like, hey man, can we meet up tomorrow? Cause I'm like, you know, and it's like, holy shit. So there's only so much you can take after a while if you're wanting to get shit done, you know?
Right. I like that. I like that. Tell me about currently Bianca. How does Bianca get motivated and inspired daily?
Man, I just try to live a life that makes art making just like I try to just always be inspired. At this point, I don't think that I'm even conscious of the things that I do. I just think that I know, like, I know I'm supposed to go out and explore. I know I need to set time to be in the city. Like right now, my thing is definitely getting on my bike without an agenda, putting on some good music and just like getting lost in the city and then getting to my studio and just feeling like I was out in it. I was seeing the city in a way that you don't really see if you're in a vehicle. That's been my biggest inspiration. Also, just because it's the best way to look at art right now is murals. Everything is sort of closed.
Right.
And other people, you know.
How so from other people? What kind of inspiration as far as do we feel like, I know for me, it's kind of weird to say, and I don't know if you'll agree or not, Bianca, but it's weird that every stage of my life, and as we quote unquote peel those layers of onions, right, and get from one stage of healing to another, I find myself that, and I find this to be very positive for me, that I also gravitate towards people that are kind of in the same place of healing. Do you ever find that for yourself? Like, that you, oh my God, I'm having a conversation with someone and I was just thinking about that for myself and how I'm healing. Do you buy into we truly do attract what we put out there in a way?
Yeah, totally. I think that, you know, the people that come into our lives are mirrors if we allow them to be. I think that it's a little dangerous to say that we attract, because I think that shitty things happen to good people also, and I don't think that we attract the bad things that happen to us. I think that there's also free will, you know, and there's like 7.5 billion people on the planet who have their own free will. But I do know that, like, yeah, I've had, depending on where I'm at in life, different people come into your life and I think that they're supposed to be guides and lessons for us. And like, yeah, I don't know.
I agree. No, I agree with that. What is Bianca's biggest fear, if any?
You know, I think about this. I feel like my biggest fear, truly, if I'm just being vulnerable and honest, is like actually being in the position that I want to be in with my career and with life and having a lot of visibility. It's like I want to be recognized for the work that I want to make and the things that I want to say, but I also shy away from being fully seen because I feel like I want to keep parts of myself to myself. And I'm afraid that if I become too successful, that I'll have to be less private. And that kind of freaks me out,
That gave me anxiety. Shit. You know, that's one thing with us, you know, yeah, I think most of us deal with this, but people recovering and have gone through a lot of trauma and stuff is that we really recognize what privacy is. You know what I mean? Now you see me, I've had the social media shit for a while, been doing it for like a decade or something, and I just recently showed my face.
Yeah.
And even then I'm just like hesitant. I'm like, you know what I mean? Because that privacy allowed me to kind of feel in my own comfortable place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
as Bianca also pointed out throughout this conversation, shit, that comfort ain't where the good stuff is most of the time.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. And I wonder if like there's a part of that that's like, are there parts of myself that I haven't fully accepted yet, and I'm afraid of like putting it all out there and then getting those sides rejected and then really taking it to heart, you know? Is that a thing? And like, is that where there's still inner work that I need to do and fully accepting all of the parts of me? Like, so maybe because when I'm really confident about myself and my story and whatever, then I'm more open and just like, whatever, judge me, I don't give a fuck, you know?
Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right.
I just think that in life, it ebbs and flows and there's just these different waves. But, you know, I feel you. Like, I have so many people tell me that, oh, do more time-lapse videos or do more live videos. And I feel so uncomfortable going on like Instagram live and being like, hey, I'm creating, or I don't want people looking in at me, you know? Like, I want to be more like, here's the art. Like, you can see me through this. I don't want to be, I don't,
Yeah.
don't look at my face.
Right. And there's something about your process and your creativity of how you're creating your art that you probably is very sacred to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then in putting that out there, you're like, oh my God, eyes are watching when I'm supposed to be, I'm in my zone right now, the way I
Yeah.
do my thing in my own, you know?
Yeah. And I've done live paintings before at different events, and
Oh shit.
yeah. And
How
it's
was
fun.
that?
It's fun. It's challenging, you know, but it's fun and it's good, you know, getting out of your comfort zone for sure. But it is something that's like art has been such a tool for me to survive and to heal that you're right that it has become this very sacred thing. You know, I go to my studio to sort of escape from the world. It's like my work and my time working is when I am processing things and I'm centering and I'm getting back to myself. Cause like I am a very bubbly person, but I'm very introverted and I'm kind of shy. Like, and I don't think that people get that from me because I'm also loud when I'm around people, but I need a significant amount of time by myself alone and quiet. And then it's just like, I'm like, I feel like it's a privilege for people to see that side of me. So I don't want to just give that away.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, your privacy is key. And you saying that, I mean, I am the same fucking way. And people do think I'm like just outgoing and shit. Oh, hell fucking no. You know, put on my Netflix crime documentary. I stay at home any day, anytime. You know, you seen that meme? I think I sent it to you where it's like, oh fuck, I socialized for an hour. Now I need 3 days off from people.
Seriously, like my battery, it goes really fast. Because when I'm with people, like I just want to give and I want to be there. And if I can't be that way, then then I kind of have a wall up and I'm like, yo, I can't give you the best side of me. So I need to be on my own for a little bit.
Absolutely. That's why I also think, you know, I'm going to make a prediction here that your circle is probably very tight.
Yeah, it's
and
tight.
You just don't open up to every motherfucker. You know what I mean?
I don't. It's funny because it's like on one hand, I feel like I'm an open book and like, you know, I like to connect with people. But on this other hand, it's just like, I don't let people in very often. And it's not because I want to be like jaded or bitter or anything. It's just like, I just realize that some people they just don't deserve to know everything about you. And you got to kind of show me that you're someone that I can trust. Cause like, yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. You
Yeah.
touched on this earlier in the beginning of this answer to this question, but so tell me what I know you there's a wall of fear that resides between your ultimate goal and what you want to be as far as being recognized and stuff. So what is Bianca's ultimate goal as an artist? As an artist first, because I also want to ask you as a person.
As an artist, my ultimate goal is to be painting whatever I want, as paintings, as murals, and making sculptures. And I have the goal that I would do that and get to a place where I don't have to be on social media anymore, where I just have enough of a name and a following where I just get called for, like, hey, we saw your work, we want you to come and paint a mural here. Or I'm just working on my paintings on my own in my studio, and I have enough clout where people see it on my website. Like, I just want to get to a point where the work speaks for itself, and I don't have to spend so much time kind of like marketing and like promoting myself, and I could just be focusing on the work and having like a pretty comfortable situation from that.
I love it. And let me ask this. Is there anything about recognition or quote unquote notoriety that scares you? Besides the privacy part.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if like I feel like there's just like an ego thing behind that. Like I really just want to make the work and be able to live a comfortable life from it. I could care less if I get articles written about me, if I'm put in a history book, you know, because at the end of the day, I feel like that doesn't matter. I think that that's people's way of trying to escape mortality by having some kind of legacy. And like, how does that feed into the ego? It's like, I just want to make things that make people feel good or introspective or laugh a little bit or be confused, you know, like I just want to make people feel things and add something beautiful and kind of weird to their lives. And that's it. That's all. And then I want to be able to have a life where I can be free to do the things that I want and explore the things that I want and travel through making art. That's what I want. If I could have it my way, I would disappear and you would never hear about me again other than like seeing my workplaces. And then I would just be like traveling, like adventuring.
And you'd be probably releasing it anonymously under a pseudonym.
Yeah, that would be so cool. Yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
Fucking awesome. I love that. So let's get back to the second piece to it. Ultimate goal for Bianca as a person. What does that look like for you, or where do you envision seeing yourself? Let's say when you reach that goal, where do you see yourself as a person?
Someone who is more present and able to tune in, like self-aware enough to where I can put my shit aside and tune in more to the people that are right in front of me. I have a hard time with that sometimes because I'm still processing so much. And, you know, we're always doing the best we can, but I just want to get to the point where I've spent enough time with myself to where I can just be there more for others. And yeah, just creating like solid communities and empowering other people and like feeling like solid enough within myself to where I can give more to others. And that's where the ultimate goal is for me, you know?
No, I do. So are we, because I didn't know that piece about you, about the nonprofit up north.
Oh yeah.
Is that part of the goal though as well? So you just talked about?
Man, if I have when I get to the point that I have,
that's right, like, no ifs. We don't fuck with ifs around here. It's when. Right. But go ahead.
I would definitely be spending more time working with policy change and lobbying for rights for women. You know, the ERA, like just so many things. So I would be focusing more on empowering other people and making people feel seen, because I think in order for us to heal, the first thing is you need to be seen. You need to have your story validated, because I think that a lot of the healing, for me at least, was just feeling like so alone in it, that I had to do it on my own, that nobody really saw what I had gone through, and then that the people that didn't really validate it. So I felt like I spent a lot of time, instead of focusing on healing, focusing on just trying to like make sure my story was valid, you know? And then I think that I spent a lot of time looking for like external validation, because I needed that. And then I had to find it within myself. And I just want to have generations of people that don't have to struggle as much and can spend more time developing their intellect and their empathy and focusing on how to make the world a better place, you know? And if there's anything I can do to help anyone with that and spread what I've learned, that's what, you know, that'd be dope.
That's fucking awesome. And I love that. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, ultimately, I think that's such a beautiful goal to have. I mean, there is so much beauty in just fucking giving. And we kind of lose that side sometimes. We're too concerned with taking.
Yeah.
And there's beauty in just doing some shit for somebody, and you don't want shit back in return, man.
Yeah.
What is the hardest obstacle you ever overcame or continuing to overcome in life?
That's a good one.
Thank you. I wrote it myself.
Oh, wow. Well done.
Thank you.
I think learning how to trust myself. And honestly, like, all of the shit I had to heal from. Like, I can't express enough how fucking hard that was. I seeked help from people that I trusted, that I didn't get it from. And I was sort of cast aside, and it was really, really difficult. And I felt for a long time like I couldn't trust anybody. And I felt like I was always a burden to people. It was really, really hard to get out of that mindset and remind myself that like I'm worthy of love, and I am love, and like I deserve to give myself love, because I destroyed myself for such a long time. And that was really, really hard to get over. And I think that there are aspects of myself that still engage in that kind of thought. And yeah, but I'm in like a much better place now to where I can recognize when negative thoughts creep in, and it's easier to be like, wait, whoop.
Right. Been there, done that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As far as for me now, again, and I'd like to get your perspective on this. With healing, I reached a point. This was maybe, again, we're going to continue. We're going to beat to death this onion thing that we've been using. So maybe a couple of layers ago, we won't put numbers on it.
Sure.
I begin to realize how important forgiveness is.
Mm-hmm.
Even forgiving people directly correlated to my trauma.
Yep.
How was that process for you, and realizing that oh shit?
Yeah. I think there comes a time where you're just tired of being angry, and you realize that like the only way to combat hate is love. And then once I recognized the humanity, like when I thought about my abusers and like how they must have been in the darkest of places to do that to another human being, I just felt compassion from them. Like looking at it from an outside perspective without having my emotional scarring associated with it, just looking at it as like person to person. And it's just like, man, you need to be a dark, twisted motherfucker to do some of that, or like a really unhealed and hurt person. And I just want to send love to that. And I remember I did this really intense meditation for like a month, like almost every day, where I was just trying to like send love to my abusers. And that was one of the craziest things. Like, I don't know, it was 2016, it was November. I remember very vividly, I had a super intense trigger of a memory that was sort of really cast aside in my mind. And all of this stuff just came back to me, and it was really intense. And I just started meditating love and thinking about those people and just sending love their way. And it's like, I'm going to heal myself. And in healing myself, I'm going to heal all of the people that I come in contact with, you know. And what I mean by that is just like, when you're living a really authentic, intentional life, the people that you're around start getting influenced by that, you know. And it might be a small thing, it might be a tiny seed that you plant, or it might be nothing at all. But I think that ripple effects of us healing ourselves are like, I think that they're profound. And I think that it's the best way to affect change is just to love, but it's like, have hella boundaries. Like, that's the thing, is like, I can forgive you, but that's more for me. That's so I'm not angry anymore. And that's for me, like, understanding the complexity of human behavior and human dynamics. And that doesn't mean that I have to engage with people anymore. That doesn't mean that they need to be a part of my life. It doesn't. So that's the other thing, is like, you can be forgiving and understanding, but you still should have like hella boundaries and put yourself first. That's really important.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, by the way. I mean, I've felt that shit. And plus, just seeing you talk about it, I can just see the emotions in your face and in your eyes. So I do appreciate you sharing that. You know, that leads me to, you talked about boundaries. Now, I didn't know what the fuck boundaries was for a long time, and I'm still working on that shit.
Yeah.
Okay, because I just didn't know that. I didn't have that self-love, self-worth, all of that goes with understanding your own boundaries and understanding others' boundaries, right?
Yeah.
At what age for you, or I'm not looking for a number, but at what point in your life did you realize, oh shit, like, I never had self-love, or self-love was never a priority for me, or nobody showed me what the fuck it was?
28.
Why that number?
I think that, like, I thought I knew what self-love was until I recognized what boundaries were. And I didn't know what boundaries were until a couple years ago, when I started doing all the work I was doing with conversations about power. And I was like, wow, how can I tell other people to have boundaries when I haven't even fully discovered what they are for myself? And I would always put other people's needs above my own. Like, I would like be working on these projects and doing all of these things for school and just saying yes to every opportunity that came my way, to the point of exhaustion. And I would not even take care of myself. I wouldn't like cook for myself. I was just eating like Power Bar on the go and, like, you know, drinking so much coffee that was so unhealthy. And then you just get to a point where you realize, like, people come and go in your life, and the only thing that's going to remain constant is you. And you need to take care of yourself first. And the people that are supposed to be in your life are going to respect your boundaries. I think I was also really afraid of being abandoned. So it was like, I would subject myself to more things, and I would bend my boundaries because I was afraid that if I set them, people would leave. And then it was like, only until I discovered how dope I am, that it's like, all right, then go. Because you don't want those people in your life. And it was hard for me to realize that. And it's so funny, because once you do, and once you overcome that fear, you start attracting the coolest people, you know? And it's like, why was I so afraid for so long? Why did I block these blessings for so long?
Wow. Nah, I couldn't agree more. How do you define self-love though now? Now that we have the boundaries and the self-love and interchangeable, how do you define self-love if you had to define it?
I think that self-love is a matter of recognizing your role in your own life and what you want your life to be, and then having the discipline to show up for that person, your future self, every day. And then being gentle enough to being gentle enough with yourself to be soft when you inevitably regress. Because there's going to be moments where you do, or where you have a hard day and like you're not on point, and that's okay too. So it's like a balance between gentleness and firm discipline, you know? And like just, and it's a balance of putting yourself first, but then also recognizing the people that deserve a little bit more of your effort, you know, because like you want to develop really amazing relationships with people too, and you can't do that if you're always only putting yourself first. Absolutely. So like, what is it? Prudence, you know, is like realizing, having the foresight to recognize what is worth your effort and what is not. And I think that's a hard thing to learn too.
Absolutely. And for me, Bianca, I was such a, you know, because I got taken back to when you were saying shit, you were the yes person. I couldn't, I was such a people pleaser. I had to please everybody but myself.
Yeah.
And didn't care if I got pleased back or I was given back what I was putting in as far as effort and care. I was just like, okay, as long as I'm taking care of others. But you realize, oh shit, I ain't doing shit for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's take it a little bit somewhere different. Because this has been touched on 3-4 times already, and I gotta know. And I don't think we've ever had this conversation. So what does Bianca listen to as far as music? Number one, and what was your musical influences growing up?
I love this question. I love music so much.
It's my life. I wouldn't be here without music.
I know. Let's just say that like what has really gotten me through the quarantine is I've been listening to a lot of John Wayne. I fucking love him. I love everything he has to say. I've been listening to Choosy in Exile and The Cramps, and like kind of getting really into like funk lately too. But I'll say that when I was in Georgia, you know, I did spend a little bit of time in this folk band, and I love that outlaw country, you know, like Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings, and like, I love that. And that's always going to be like roots for me, you know, like that's sort of my go-to. Oh man, but I mean, it just depends. It depends on your mood. It depends what you're looking for. I like that Motown. I love anything with soul, you know, like I want to feel feelings. I want words that mean something. I want it like, if I'm sad, I want to hear music that's like other people that have been through it, that understand and that show me you're not alone. Or if I need to be like something up and peppy, like I want to listen to, you know, I love music. It's amazing.
If, let's say, world's coming to an end, the zombie apocalypse has hit, you could have one fucking album, what would it be? To listen to for the rest of your life, all by yourself, no other music ever made.
Oh, that is such a hard question. You know, I'm like a Libra too, so anytime I make a choice, it's like, wait, this. No, wait, this.
Of course. We can add the updates later. I'll write it down in the comment section.
All right. I want to say this, but it's going to be so like basic, but it's okay. And I'm saying this because I feel like if it's like one thing that I could hear for the rest of my life, like this to me has a nice amount of range, and it's also like really special to me from when I like first started collecting records. But dude, like the Beatles' White Album, I know that that's like the most basic thing ever, but you get so much variety in that. Oh. And it'll bring me back to a really nostalgic time in life, you know? I think that maybe when like zombies are coming, you want to be reminded of a simpler time, and I think that would do it for me.
I love it. You know, I've been on a hunt. You know, the original one of that, it like sells for like $10K if you're lucky enough to find it. And I didn't know you collected records, by the way. So do I.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that analog.
Music, man. I'm telling you, homie. I don't know. I mean, like you said, whenever I felt the saddest, downest times, music has picked me up. Even though, like you said, that song for that moment is like, oh my God, it's just explaining my fucking pain. Let me ball this shit out. But it was worth it because it was a healing process to understand, to know, holy shit, you ain't alone in this shit, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else knows it.
Yeah.
Favorite movie of all time?
Oh my God.
And I'm gonna share mine for this one, by the way.
Oh yeah?
I got to, yeah.
I'm excited. I don't know, because there's like silly comedies that I really like, you
Like
know?
what? Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, I love The Other Guys and
Oh
Step
shit!
Brothers. Like they're so dumb and so silly.
No, that shit is funny as fuck, yo.
They're super funny. Yeah, I know. The favorite movie, Brazil comes to mind, and The Fisher King. I really like Terry Gilliam. I think he's a great director. I also like, just like 80s, like what's that? I watched this movie like a few years ago and it became an instant favorite. It's Buccaneer Banzai and Adventures in the Eighth Dimension.
Shit. Okay, this is the first time hearing. Tell me about it.
It's like this sci-fi with Jeff Goldblum and this dude who's like, yeah, right? And he's like this guy who's like in a rock and roll band, but he also plays karate and he's like a doctor. And then he travels the eighth dimension to fight off these aliens. It's so wonderful.
I love
and
it because I'm imagining the 80s graphics.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And like, I want to say The Labyrinth because I love Jim Jeffries and just that puppetry. There's so much art that before CGI, when you had to make all of that by hand, and like, I think that's so cool. But I will say that David Bowie is overrated and also was into little girls. So that's my problem with The Labyrinth. And I don't care. Come at me, people. David Bowie's overrated.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that was one of the toughest things, homie, is, as me, myself, also growing up someone that was, sexually abused when I was younger. It's crazy because it fucked me up because I was such a fucking Michael Jackson fan.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you, at the stage I'm in my life, and I've been in this stage for a long time, I had to take the man off of favorites. Anytime it comes up as disliked, because I know, there's art and there's life, but I can't, and I think it's just being a human being that it's hard, even if you've never been traumatized with that, to separate that piece. You can't, because this person put them shit out there as this heal the world type of motherfucker, and then there was not much healing going on.
Yeah.
And
hypocrisy.
Yeah, and that ruins it, homie. That ruins it.
Yeah, it does.
Favorite movie though, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh yeah.
It just spoke to me in so many, and it's a tear jerker. It has funny moments, but it was to this day, one of the deepest movies. Like that movie left impressions on me. Yeah. I mean, I will always remember, the gentleman that got out, that released. God, was it Mr. Booker? But anyways, the gentleman that was in prison, he got released, and when he came out of prison, he was in his 80s. He realized life was not for him anymore, right?
Yeah.
And he realized, oh my God, the only friends he had was his cellmates.
Yeah.
And so he committed suicide, and then he wrote Booker Was Here. And it was just, I mean, that just sticks to me. And I saw that at a very young age, you know what I mean? That movie when it came out, and it just, the effects of that movie. And I think Stephen King is also one of the greatest writers.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, I think, that he's just classified as horror, but I think there's so much more to the man. That's my perspective. Talk to me about social media, my homie. Tell me, you know how it is. I mean, with everything else in life, there's a balance of the good and the bad, but like, how do you view social media and where it has taken people, and where we added as far as the way we live life and have to capture every moment?
Yeah. I love that I'm able to connect and share with my family in Brazil and my family in Atlanta and friends from all over the place, without having, like we can just go on Instagram or on Facebook and see sort of what people are up to, and they can see what I'm up to. So in a way you do feel connected, and like for my business too, I love it. I get so much work because of that. So it's really wonderful in these ways. But like you said, like everything, there's good and bad and there's balance. And I think it's just a matter of being aware, of how you're using it. I feel like it's almost training us to be so dependent on technology, and that freaks me out, where that'll take us and what that's doing to our attention span. And I mean, I noticed like my own habitual like going and grabbing for my phone and then trying to be like, wait, why am I even grabbing this right now? So just trying to be aware of like how much I use it. And that's the thing, is like I do use it a lot for my business. So I'm on there all the time, and I love when I'm away or and I'm in a place that has no cell reception and I have to be off of it. It's just the nicest thing. I'm just, yeah, I just worry that I worry about younger generations that are, don't have like a full understanding of life. I'm so glad that I'm not a parent right now, to kids growing up with this in their hand all the time and just trying to navigate through a world that's like hyper sexualized and just like so much about showing off. And what does that do for our self-esteem and depression, and how are we constantly comparing ourselves to others, So there's that side. Yeah.
You know, you touched on something, and I just wanted to ask you, because you talked about the over sexualized and how much you show, right?
Yeah.
How then, there's a perspective as well of, well, someone, a human being, has a right to show whatever the fuck they want,
Yeah, 100%.
right, without being exploited anyway. But when you're living through the lens of social media, doesn't that automatically create some sort of exploitation?
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Like, look, I'm all for people doing whatever it is to make themselves feel empowered. And we are humans, we're complex, we're multifaceted. I think that it's naive to think that you're not, a sexual creature, but I just think that our society puts so much emphasis on this. And I think that we're in this place right now where it's so like, it's like, I'm like, yeah, whatever, free love, do whatever you want, as long as you're being open and honest and, you're not hurting anybody. But I think that make sure you're not hurting yourself too. For me, I think it just depends on where you're at in life. Like there was a moment for me where I felt like I really just wanted to be out there, of just like this is me, this is my body, and like da da da. And it's not shameful, it's not inherently dirty. I think like as women, we really need, like the sexual liberation for women is an important facet of feminism that leads us to like a level of equality, to not be viewed as dirty for just being human beings and doing the same thing that a man does. But I want to be sure that it's not like, because when you're just rebelling, you're not really being true to yourself either. So it's like, you don't want to repress yourself. You want to be open, you want to explore things, you want to be safe, but we're very easily influenced. And when we're seeing that happen all over the place, I feel like maybe sometimes people expose themselves in ways that maybe they wouldn't if it wasn't so out there. And I don't know. I want people to be free. I love it when I see people express themselves, and just like, I don't think that the human body is something to be shameful or ashamed of. But I kind of just feel like we're just so extreme these days, and I don't know how healthy that is either.
Right. No, I think you touch on a lot of great points regarding that. And I think what you said was the most important for me was when you said just making sure you're not hurting yourself in the process. And I think it's important to recognize your own fucking boundaries with your own body, even, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of sexuality and women in general, as far as throughout time, let me go back to something real quick. How much did religion play an influence on you with the conservative upbringing? What effects you think that may have had, good or bad, as you grew up?
I think that it, especially where I grew up and my experiences, and especially in middle school, like, I think it made me really want to, I think it made women, it was very much ingrained in me that women are supposed to be small and make themselves smaller to accommodate others. And I had such a hard time accepting that. And I was like, why do I have to shrink myself for other people? And why does anyone have to do that? And how can we really embrace and encourage people to just live out loud, you know?
Mm.
That's what I got from religion, was that like who you have, that you have to kind of like play a role that isn't yourself so that you could be palatable to other people. And I was just like, well, that feels really inauthentic. And aren't we supposed to be like doesn't God love all children, all his children, you
Mhm.
know? Like, what's up with that?
Right. How does Bianca define spirituality?
I think that spirituality is a very personal thing. I think it's a personal journey. And I think it's different for everybody. And for me, I think it's more about just like trying to quiet and tune in. It's like, it's more about just like slowing down and tuning into the things around me and maybe the messages that are coming to me that I don't pay attention to when I'm going too fast, you know?
Got it. No, absolutely. Um, what?
Can I say one more thing about that?
Hell yeah.
I think it's also about being intentional and mindful.
Mm.
I think that spirituality is a lot about like just tuning in and to be aware enough of when you're just like acting off of habits and impulses and like what you're supposed to be doing, and to recognize when you are doing that and to come back to center and just be more intentional. Like, why am I doing this? Like, where is my gratitude? Like, really tuning into the things that we are grateful for. Like, I know that like for me, it's like I wake up, I want to make a cup of coffee, and like, you know, you go through your like routine and you do your da 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 da, and then I try to tune into that and like, why am I rushing so much right now? Like, these are the tiny little moments that are making up my life. So how can I be more present here? And like setting intentions has really helped me with that, and just recognizing when I'm moving fast and trying to
Mhm.
slow down.
Oh God, story of my life. Which brings me to this because you touched on it. Um, please tell me or share your experiences of meditation, how you meditate, as far as like, do you use it as a coping skill? How does that work for you? And how do you
Uh,
recognize when, holy shit, I'm not in the present anymore. I've been going way too fast.
Let me just drink some water really quick.
For reals, I understand.
Man, when I realized that neuroplasticity was a real thing, I worked really hard on meditating to quiet my mind. And in doing that, I became aware of just how many thoughts are in my head at any given time. And then once you start doing that enough, you start becoming aware of your thoughts when you're not meditating, just when you're going about your day. And then trying to like, I would have, if I had like a negative talk or like negative thought, negative self-talk, I would like consciously try to reprogram with two positive thoughts, right? So it's like I've meditated enough to where I feel like I can tap into that kind of state of mind just when I'm going about my day. And that was a really exciting place to be. But I've had a couple moments meditating that were really intense. Like I had like a chanting session where I ohmed for like 10 minutes straight. And I had super intense visuals. And I just like envisioned this like force field around me. It was really intense. And then I've had other moments where I did like water gazing in nature with a river, and like looked back up and everything was just like in this tunnel vision. And meditating is like, our minds are a trip. The things that you can do, the things that you can achieve just from quieting it. And I try to do it every day. But the goal is really to get to the place where it's like part of my morning routine, 20 minutes in the morning. You know, I'm not there yet.
But
that's my own thing.
Hey, you might not be there yet fully, but you've had some great experiences. I mean, I was just trying to vision tunnel vision, and I was just like, oh my God. I mean, I'm still at the 1 minute, 2 minute a day, but shit. I mean, that for me to be in that moment, to be still and just be there it's one of the most amazing feelings.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question. So you ready for this one? You're gonna like this because it's very easy, because it's all about you. Well, I mean, the whole thing's been about you, but this is really about you. If you had to define or tell another human being who Bianca is, how would you describe her?
I would describe her as a really strong and kind person who's committed to constantly growing and evolving and humbling herself enough to be accountable for her flaws, and loving herself enough to recognize her strengths, and someone who is pretty genuine, you know?
I love that. Well, Bianca, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate not only you opening up, but just, you being yourself as usual and being vulnerable. And this was, for me, a very therapeutic, great conversation. And also, can you please let people know all your social medias, website, everything you got going on and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, follow me at Bianca Lago Art. That's my handle for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And biancalagoart.org is my website. Yeah, shoot me an email if you want. biancalagoart@gmail. And thank you. This was pretty therapeutic for me too. You are a definitely insightful person to talk to. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Bianca. And yo, more to come. You gonna come back? We ain't done. I got more topics, you know what I mean?
I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thank you, Bianca. You take care.
Yeah, you too.